Assalamu alaikum. Allah is Al-Wakeel, the ultimate trustee, the one who takes care of every detail, who never forgets, never miscalculates, never lets you down. When we say, Hasbi Allahu wa ni'mal wakeel, Allah is enough for me, and He is the best trustee. It's not just a phrase. You're making a choice to hand over the things you can't control, the outcomes, the what-ifs, the anxiety. Allah says in the Quran, and place your trust in Allah. Allah is enough as a disposer of affairs. What does it mean that Allah is Al-Wakeel? It means Allah is the one you can count on, fully, with no gaps in care, no mistakes, no delays. To trust Him doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you do your part, then you let go. Not because you're giving up, but because you know He's got it from there. There's that hadith where a man asked the Prophet, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, should I tie my camel and trust Allah, or leave it untied and trust Allah? The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, tie it and trust Allah. That's real trust. You do what you can with effort and excellence, but you leave the result to Him. If you relied on Allah the way He deserves to be relied on, you'd be provided for like the birds. They leave hungry in the morning and return full in the evening. The bird flies. It works, but it doesn't stress over what it can't control. Same with us. We put in the effort, but the outcome? That's Allah's domain. Trusting Allah doesn't mean doing nothing. It means being responsible for your actions, your work, your character, your choices, while surrendering the parts you can't control. Allah says in the Quran, indeed, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. So plan, show up, take action, but don't carry the pressure of forcing results. That's not your role, that's His. A lot of our anxiety comes from trying to do what only Allah can do, to predict, to protect, to make everything work out perfectly. But when we stop trying to play Allah's role and focus on our own, that's when we find peace. Think about the situation of Hijjah alayhi salam in the desert. Imagine being left alone in a desert with a baby and barely any water. That was Hijjah's situation. She didn't know where help would come from, but she still ran between the hills of Safa and Marwa 7 times, trusting that Allah would provide. And He did. Not just any water, Zamzam, a spring that's still flowing thousands of years later. Her trust wasn't just rewarded, it became a ritual millions now repeat during Hajj. Sometimes your trust in Allah leads to something much bigger than you imagined. Or the story of Musa alayhi salam at the Red Sea. When Bani Israel was trapped between Pharaoh's army and the sea, the people panicked. But Musa alayhi salam said, no, indeed, with me is my Lord, He will guide me. And that's when Allah split the sea, not before they trusted, not while they stood still. It happened after they stepped forward. Sometimes you won't see the path until you take the step. Even Maryam alayhi salam in labor. In pain and alone, Maryam alayhi salam gave birth under a palm tree. She cried out, overwhelmed, but Allah comforted her and told her to shake the tree. Think about it. How much strength does a woman in labor have to shake a palm tree? It wasn't about force. It was about effort. She moved and Allah provided. Even in your weakest moments, your smallest act of trust is seen by Al-Wakeel. These aren't just ancient stories, they're reminders that trusting Allah is timeless. Maybe you're in your own version of that test right now. Maybe you're like Hijjah alayhi salam, feeling alone in your struggle, doing everything you can, but not seeing the outcome yet. Or like Musa alayhi salam, stuck, overwhelmed, with no clear way forward. Or maybe like Maryam alayhi salam, in deep pain, feeling unseen, exhausted from holding it all in. Wherever you are, your trust matters, even if your voice shakes, even if no one sees it. Allah sees it. And He responds. There was a time I thought I was doing exactly what the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, tie your camel and trust Allah. And I did. I planned, I worked hard, I made dua. But over time, I realized I wasn't just tying the camel. I was gripping the rope so tightly that I was hurting myself. I was holding on to the outcome like it was mine to control. And that's not trust. That's fear disguised as control. Trust isn't about doing everything. It's about doing your part and then stepping back. Surrendering, not from weakness, but from faith. Because the truth is, you either let go or you get dragged. How to practice trust in everyday life. Do your best, then hand it over. Take the steps, make the effort, ask for help. But when the time comes, leave the results to Allah. Stay grounded during uncertainty. When life throws the unexpected, illness, loss, heartbreak, remind yourself, Al-Wakeel is still in control, even when things feel out of control. Let go of overthinking. If you find yourself spinning in what-ifs, stop. Try replacing that thought with, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Let that be your anchor. Seek guidance before decisions. Make istikhara, reflect, and remember that trusting Allah also means trusting His timing and redirections. Live honestly. You won't need to manipulate, cheat, or hustle in desperation if you believe that what's meant for you will reach you, and what's not won't stay. What if I'm tired of hoping? That's real. Sometimes you keep praying and nothing changes, but don't confuse silence with absence. He hears you, every single time. But sometimes the answer isn't yes or now. Sometimes it's not yet. You're still becoming the person who can carry what you asked for. Allah doesn't need time. He uses time to prepare you, to protect you, to grow you. So if you're tired, rest. But don't quit. Even when you can't see anything changing, trust. Something is. Your dua was never ignored. It was either saved, redirected, or delayed for something better. Al-Wakeel never abandons what's been entrusted to him. Hold on a little longer. There's meaning in this moment, even if it's not clear yet. Saying, Ya Wakeel, I trust you, is an act of surrender, not because you're giving up, but because you're finally choosing peace. It's saying, Ya Allah, I've done what I could. Now I leave the rest to you. That's not weakness, that's faith. Disclaimer, I'm not a scholar, just a student of knowledge sharing my journey.